I think we're at an incredibly dynamic and exciting time. So we are all expanding, and we're expanding into what I describe as the exact same frequency as the energy of this dimension. Is that there is a specific frequency here, which I call creation energy. So we get to be these powerful creators in the image, if you like, of the great creator and play with that energy. We've been trying to do it by going and, manifesting something which is outside of us. But what I'm seeing is when you reach a frequency or a vibration, whatever the right word is, when you reach a calibration, because then you are the energy. Hi, I'm Michelle Robinson, and this is your superior self.
Yes, it is. Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time. This is going to be a beautiful conversation. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I know it's very early where you're at. I had a conversation with you prior to this interview, and I had to have you on to talk about your story. So thank you, Michelle, for taking the time and for staying up so late to have this conversation.
It is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So I usually do a ton of research on a guest, right? But the way that most people find you is through the word of mouth, and that's probably the best advertising or marketing campaign you can have. You've been very successful in your business, but I want to know more about your intuitive abilities, how you've cultivated for that, how you became a seer for your clients and helping them find the highest potential for a future probability state and how you collapse that probability so that they can experience it into this reality. But before we get into that, I want to know more about you and your journey because I'm very interested in the subjective experience. So, one, I'm going to start it off with this question. How do you experience this reality?
I make it up as I go along.
The definition of a creator.
Yeah, because I think the power is in the present moment. Like we hear that a lot, but truly we create what's ahead off of what we're choosing right now.
Mm,
And I see that over and over. So I think reality is what we make it, what we believe it needs to be for us. I think that we all probably aim too low about what that should be and what that looks like. I think the possibilities are far greater than we allow ourselves to imagine.
far greater. But those programs that we inherit as we grow up or train our brain to believe when we're in early childhood, early adulthood, kind of limit us to see those future potentials at the highest potential that they could possibly be. That's my theory anyway.
Mm,
Um, do you help your clients break those programs?
yes. Yeah, that's a big part of the work that I do because it's very hard to advance and expand on top of limitation and suppression. So, the first thing that I do with my clients is take them to a point where they have a clean page or a clean slate to work off. And just that piece, which is actually the first piece of the work I do with anyone, really makes some radical changes because without the suppressions, without the beliefs that are holding you down, I see people's energy just like leap, really go one, two, three levels higher than they were sort of before they came into the room with me an hour before. So it doesn't have to be a long process.
Hmm.
We make it complicated because we all have this need, it seems, to hold on to stuff, whether it's good or bad. Usually we hold the bad really tight because we're afraid of what it's done to us or that it might come do it again.
Sure.
So there's conditioning, there's childhood, there's life, and there's your own sort of stories that you tell yourself that hold you back.
Mm, and they can be very powerful.
Mm.
I want to know about you. I want to know about how you've developed these superpowers, superhuman powers for yourself over your life. Have you always done this full-time work? Have you done something before? Like, did you were you born with these abilities to see people's energies, people's future potentials, their connection with consciousness? Like, how did it start for you?
I think I came through. Like, I don't remember a point where I didn't know. Um, I I didn't know how not to do this. It's like it's been a part of me, and I've always been able to somehow know things or sense things that other people can't see. And I would say I didn't come through with superpowers. I have worked on those and I have crafted those. I didn't always do this work. I actually had initially a scientific, technical background, and then I traveled and I came home and I needed a car, and I thought, "Oh, what can I do that has a car? Oh, sales! I'll do sales." Not really realizing I was using my skill set to work out what someone needed and solve a problem for them. So I did sales and I had a corporate career, and I left that, what I thought temporarily, to have family. And, best laid plans and things change. And um, I was in a position where I really had to rethink what I was going to do. And I remember uh, thinking to myself and sort of thinking to spirit at the same time, if I created this, because I believe we create everything. I believe we're really powerful creators, and that's part of the joy in being here. So if I've created this difficult situation that I can't find a way out of, I must be able to uncreate it. And I thought, right, what can I do? What's special about me? And then that's when I got the reminder that, well, you've always known things that other people don't know. I wonder if I could do something with that. And the next morning, there was an ad in the paper, because that's how it was in those days. um, and it was for a reader on a line, because I had to work from home because I was taking care of a really difficult, challenging baby. And that was it. That's how I started.
Oh, wow. How was
Yeah.
your early childhood growing up in like traditional school systems with these gifts? That we don't typically hear of institutional systems or educational systems nurturing that gift. Like,
Yeah.
what was your experience like growing up with your friends and family?
So sometimes it was great and it was really useful to have these kind of gifts. And sometimes, I told you the story about someone was banging on a piano and saying, "Oh, if only someone could play." And I sort of walked up and I started doing some chords. And then everyone went, "We didn't know you could play the piano." And I sort of snapped out of it. So I think there's a term for that now, quantum jumping or something. But I would be able to tune in and pick up skill sets that I didn't really have. I was just borrowing them. But I didn't understand that. I didn't know how to explain it. And then so friends and teachers and sometimes family, would just think I was mucking around with them, or, just not being straight about it. And so it sort of would backfire on me. So I became very, very shy. Um, and, sometimes there'd be a test and I just sort of like, the answers would come through. And then I'd get called out, and I remember being retested, and I just thought, "Oh my god, I've done something really wrong." It felt so weird being singled out. So, I mean, sometimes it was useful, as I said, but sometimes it made me feel different and in a weird kind of a way, and often a little bit misunderstood. So,
Hmm. What about personal relationships, right? Like those could be the toughest.
well, not for the faint-hearted, right?
No.
Because you don't mean to, but you still see, you know.
Sure.
Um,
So, like, hey, honey, I can see your energy right now. Like, you're holding back. What is it that you need to tell me? Like, how do you work through that? And how do you, I guess, when you first tell someone that you love, right, in a personal
mm,
relationship, that guess what? I have this other side of me that you may not necessarily believe or you think is woo-hoo. Like, how do you navigate those waters? How do you just kind of like, which I guess your first relationship or the one that you're in now, like, were they totally open to this possibility of you being a seer?
I think that, you know, early in my 20s, I would have not sort of been so open about it. I certainly wasn't earning my living from using my skills. So that was sort of different then. I would just have this sneaky way of knowing stuff, you know. So, but I think now, um, certainly it has been something that sort of comes up in little pieces. Like it's like, oh, how did you know that? Or where did you get that from? And so it's a soft sort of lead in into the conversation, you know, about it. So it's not like this big shock reveal.
Sure.
Who am I? Who am I falling in love with?
Do you think that you talked about quantum jumping, and I
Mm,
find that so fascinating how we can go into these different states of consciousness and connect with the future probability state of ourselves that we envision, the highest potential of our lives and what we may desire, and then bringing that energy back.
mm.
Oh, how do you do that? You know, like that's the question. That's the $1 million question. Like, how do you connect with that and bring that energy back?
I feel that it happens best when you're not trying. You know, if you're consciously trying to do it, I don't know, you sort of trip yourself up. So, it's a little bit like miracle healings. I had a shoulder repaired that was going in for surgery by spirit, and that was just, it's when you've tried, sort of, sometimes you've tried everything and you just sort of go, oh, and you just like give it up, that the inspiration's able to come through. So there's times like that. There's times where just it would be unconscious for me. It would just like happen.
Hmm.
I think with working so much now, it's very much more a in and out process.
Wow.
Like I'm in work mode or I'm not in work mode.
Well, so what, like, you're in work mode, which is having sessions and clients and helping them guide them through their lives, see the programs, help them connect with their future probability states. What's the
Mm.
personal side? What's the other side of the house look like as far as, like your everyday life, Michelle? Like, um,
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm very human, you know. Um, I do find that I'm able to move through my life more easily. People tell me all the time, "Oh, you're so strong," "You're so strong," or um, positive. But it's really that I know from what I've already lived and experienced that there's always a purpose to everything, even if it's something that you think, hmm, you know, not feeling this one. If you can work with what's happening and understand what it's offering you, I think a big part of moving through life effortlessly, which is what we're all aspiring to do, is really being able to interpret. What does that mean? Now that I understand that, then, what power do I have over this? What influence do I have? What can I do? I say a lot, if you don't like the lesson, just simply learn it. Just take it on board, and all the stuff around the lesson, all the squeeze and the pressure from the universe will go. Really,
will
really well.
transform to a newer reality. Have you seen like your reality physically change?
Yes, yes, I have.
Can you give
Not
me an
not
example?
all the time, but at various times, yes, things have really shifted. In everyday life, I see souls coming and going, particularly with babies, how the souls pop in and out till they really settle into the body. Like I see all that sort of stuff. I suppose it's a bit of a weird world, my world, but I'm
Oh,
used to it.
well, I want to know more about that, right? Your world. How do you experience it? Like how do you like so when you were um in the professional world, the traditional world, and you started to I guess you had to stay at home and work and you went and read in a newspaper about a reader, was there any fear associated with that? Like that, I guess,
Oh,
transforming your
huge.
life into something totally, I would say at that time is radical. Yeah. And how did you move through that fear?
I simply had to. Like it was, I'd maneuvered myself to a point where I simply had to yield, and I had to surrender and I had to do it. Did I know if I could do it? Not really. Turns out I'm really good at it. Um, it was just my last option. And if you talk about the squeeze that the universe and the constructs that we put around ourselves to make us shift in directions that are more aligned for us, that was one of them. So um, I just applied, and when you're in that space and it's right, and you've made the right move, things happen very quickly. They happen very easily. But yeah, I it took me a long time to feel that I could trust what I could do.
Hmm.
So um, I was working at that stage just over the phone, so there was nothing to go on. So it was fantastic training to reading energy because you had a voice, but nothing else. And so you were really interpreting, you had to be interpreting the energy.
You said you had to do this. Like, why did you have to do this?
Well, I was on my own at that stage. I was a single parent. I had a baby that was really had a lot of issues, and I couldn't go back to work. I couldn't go back to my cozy corporate career as I had planned. And, I had to earn money, but I had to be able to be at home and work flexible hours. And, yeah, it was either that or sell the house.
Well, you couldn't go back to your career. Is that because the baby?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What were you trained in? Like, what did you go to school to learn? What was your corporate career? What was that in? It was in sales.
It was sales. I actually used to look after all the breweries in New Zealand.
Oh,
So we're
wow.
quite big beer drinkers down here. So it was the packaging for the breweries. So yeah, it was a good job. So it was packaging, it was advertising. I sold, technical equipment. First of all, that was from the lab work to selling technical. That was sort of one shift. And then I just sort of started moving more across to the creative side of myself because I was always in school. It was sciences, languages, and arts. And it was always like this tussle.
Mhm.
And in the end, I went with sciences because everybody said, wow, you've got your wider career options with science than you have with language. I don't know. It worked out.
So you said your baby was difficult, and I've had three kids, and I know what that means for me, what difficult means for me. Um,
Mm.
being a seer or being someone with these abilities, like what did that mean for you? You know, like what could you see? What was this something that you agreed to like before coming in? Was this some type of past life agreement, like soul family agreement? Like what did that look like?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I think the the big impact as far as this conversation is, what that really did was made me search for answers in different ways and sort of dig deeper. So it was really the catalyst for getting me to use the gifts that I had.
Wow.
But yes, there is a karmic history. Yes, this is a soul that I recognized immediately, but couldn't quite work out where from, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Do you
so
recognize souls like that when you have conversations with people? Do you see them from where you've known them before?
I will usually know, and then know I know them, and then I will. Um, I would have to sit and go into the records to find out the detail of who was who and what the story was. But I would be able to say straight off the bat what the dynamic was between the people, between us.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Well, you said
um,
this before in my session with you. You said it is written about you, which really
mm.
made me curious because who wrote this? You know, like who wrote the Akashic records? Like you're reading it and you're translating that for me. It really hit my curiosity. Like, I was like, well, who wrote that, right? Like who writes that for us?
I think that the piece that I went to for you, so their records are huge, and there's lots of different sort of dimensional levels and spaces and places within them. So when I go to the records for my clients, like when I went to the records for you, I asked your soul to take me in to show me basically the blueprint it had in mind when you were being created.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's and to answer your question, it was your soul.
So it's already written. So where does free will come into this if I'm just living a blueprint, if that makes sense?
So you're living a blueprint on which you are created as a being. So if we see your physical body as your vehicle, it's like all the stuff that goes into that vehicle, the gifts you have, the intelligence you have, the inquiring, curious mind that you have. Your soul has a lot to do with how that gets put together. And I always like to go to soul because it's the closest, it's the highest spiritual aspect of you that is the closest to your humanity, to your embodiment. So that's why I ask the soul about you, about what it basically put into your container. And I also ask your soul to show me what you might be carrying, that you came in with that can be released. Um, and usually everyone has something. So it's very, very rare to get someone that's already clear.
Hmm.
And really your soul just tells me uh, what it wants you to know about you.
Do they hold back from you when you like I feel like they don't want to tell us everything, right? Do they just give us like little nuggets to kind of lead us the carrot? Do they dangle the carrot in front of us?
Yeah, definitely. Because they, if they told us everything, we'd still be on that call. Where do you stop? Like, so I ask for specific little nuggets that will help. If I'm talking to you at the junction you're at, move forward, expand, find a clear direction, feel really sure about your next step.
Hmm. So has it already happened, right? Like, so when you tap into the Akashic records, you said, Trey, this is what is written about you.
Mm,
And so has it already happened? And if it has, why do we why do we fear that it won't, you know?
mm. Yeah, and that is a great question because I think I mean, this is a sort of a working answer. It's not like it's set, but it appears that part of this human experience that we sign up for that has this component of fear that we all carry. And when you get down to it, when you get through the layers of all the things that you are and you are not, there is usually a core fear in everybody. And that's actually, I might say it's a simple thing, but it's usually one thing. So an example of that is someone that had this sort of incredible anger and rage that they just couldn't explain where it came from. And what it turned out to be of origin around the fact that this person felt different. They never felt that they fitted in. And it was the resentments. And then we found some past life stuff as well. If you believe in past life having happened past, I think it's all happening simultaneously myself. So, they when someone gets that about themselves, it's like such a profound thing. And as we're having the conversations, the energy is being worked on, the frequencies are changing, and so you feel it in your body, your mind, your heart, and soul, all at the same time. When you get that alignment, that's where big stuff can happen instantly. And so that's the sort of the miracle moments
How do we get
that
into that
I like to.
alignment, right? Like, how do we get into that alignment with that potential?
Yeah, so that is a process that is different for everybody, and I suppose that's what I do really with each client or group that I have. It is about, first of all, understanding who you are, what your gifts are, how you might choose to use them. So that's where free will comes in. Like, I might say to you, you're a visionary, you're a change agent, you're a leader, you're excellent at building communities. You could do a million different things with that little set of skills, couldn't you? So
Hmm.
that's the free will. It's how you express that, how you choose to express that is up to you. But your soul will always be guiding you, always talking to you, uh, always trying to give you the best angle, if you like, or the best position on your pathway.
So, are our goals the individual goals of the persona or the self, the me, the Trey, or is it the soul's goals?
Yeah, I love that question. It's both, and that's how you get the alignment.
Hmm. So, like we discussed, and I'll say I'll be transparent. I'll be transparent in this conversation. Like you said that it was written that I am a motivational speaker, a good motivational speaker. So how would that benefit the soul?
The soul would be working with expression and communicating. And so if you put the motivational speaker with the change agent or the visionary, or bits of both, then you have a powerful voice to raise consciousness or open awareness with. Now, how Trey actually decides that looks is up to you.
That's
But
why I'm
like
having a conversation with you because Trey needs
you
to
got
put
all
it
the
together.
goods, Trey.
Trey needs to
Put them
put
to
it
work.
together. Yeah, just come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, those programs, those fears, that we all kind of accumulate over time
Mm.
is holds us back. It is those, if you think about a hot air balloon, it's the weights that hold the balloon down, until you can figure out where the weights are and then cut them loose and then, fly if you want to imagine that. So
Mm.
how do you, like, if you're in a client session with someone and they're trying to achieve a future probability for themselves, how do you help them find the weights in that balloon? Like, how do you tap into that? Um, how do you tap into their energy? And I know you said you spoke to, you asked their soul, but can you also energetically see that and where they're kind of stuck?
Yeah. So I read the energy field of the person in front of me. That's me, sort of as the seer, reading that, sensing the motivations, hearing the rationalizations. Finally got that word out. Um, but also, that's where I work with spirit, and spirit will often give me the questions, or, and you'll be talking, and I'll see a kink in the energy, and then spirit will give me a question to give you. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the spot we need to be in.
Well, how do you see
That's where the
people?
weight is.
Like you say, you see energy. Like how do you really see this reality? Like, is it? I'm assuming it's the way that I see it, but like, how do you see it?
It is sometimes see sense. Like I will actually sense it in my body where something's off with someone or where they're holding something. Sometimes it is color. Sometimes it is like sort of like heat waves. You see a disturbance in the field. Um, so I think energy for me, as I process and work with it, is like an individual signature for each being or each collective. Um, and often when I was channeling, and I would say, who are you? Um, and sometimes I would get a name, but then as the process expanded, bigger energies were coming on board, and they would say, we don't use names. Name us if you want to, and we'd agree on a name. Or they would say, learn to read our signature.
So
So
I have a collective signature with this body, I guess.
yeah, your body has its own sort of, or we might say vibe or energy, but I would say it's a signature.
And then you follow that signature to the soul.
When I want to know about the nuts and bolts of you and how your energy is put together, and if there's any influences or suppressions that we want to lift, my first go-to is your soul. As we would continue to work together, um, it would be like, in your case, it would be some belief work. Okay. And that would be spirit. Then spirit would really start coming in and leading those sessions and guiding you through your maze.
Well, you said something about the collective, right? Is there a collective consciousness or council or beings that are kind of tied to the soul? Like when you said we don't really have a name, for whatever reason, like is that associated with the soul as well?
Yeah, I mean, the soul is, I think, very different to what we sort of perceive or imagine it actually is. So, like I've seen my soul, and I didn't know what it was actually. It was quite an experience because I had to ask the spirit, what is that? And it was, I thought it would be some beautiful, sparkly being. Um, and it was sort of initially like a wispy cloud through the cosmos. And then when you got closer, you could actually see they took me to like the engine room of the soul, the processing unit of the soul, because they say soul is like a distribution center. It's sending out vehicles and embodiments left, right, and center, and it's pulling all the information and then making new iteration of itself. And so what I saw that really surprised me was sort of this biomechanical, moving lights. There really aren't human words for it. The closest thing I could say was part of it looked a little bit like those the Borg on Star Trek. Those cubes, except it wasn't a cube and it wasn't static like that. It was this fluid, and you could see the sparks coming in, and you could see it was really noisy actually and huge. And so that was like the processing unit of the soul. No, I was just going to say, I think that we all think our souls are us. Like, we think um, it's all about us, but we're one little embodiment. We're one tiny slice of soul, defragmented to come down here to this particular dimension. So our souls decide us,
Wow.
and we take ourselves back to soul at the end of the day. When time's done, we pull, like, we give all that information and experience across to soul. We are absorbed back into the mass, and then soul works out what its next best move is and
So what
creates something new.
so what happens to this awareness of self when we die, right? Do we go back to the soul? And then what is this awareness that I experience where I feel like I have a body? I feel like I'm having a conversation with you. What's that process?
Well, it's a reality that we're choosing to uphold, you know, but we could be doing so many other different things at the same time. Our brains can't really contain uh, all the dimensions and all the different states. So, when I stop being Michelle, I believe that I return back to that soul, that vast soul version, give it all over, you integrate, and then the soul decides.
Hmm.
But from what they show me, so this is through the lens that I see with spirit, but soul has like lines of light or little embodiment lines. So when I talk to soul, I'm talking to the soul part that is running the line of all the different iterations of you. And at the moment, you're Trey. So we jump into that connection point at Trey, but you can look backwards or forwards if you really want to. But truthfully, there's enough juicy information in the current embodiment really for us to cope with.
Hmm. So as Troy, is there many different timelines, like different realities that I'm currently living?
I think you can answer that two ways, which is the wonderful thing about spirit. There's always more than one answer. But as Trey, I guess it's a personal belief, whether you believe there's different versions of you or different choice points still playing out. Um, I do believe that. But then there's also the different dimensional aspects that belong not so much to Trey, but to that line of those embodiments.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you can get crossovers between those dimensional embodiments.
Have you seen that?
I have. It's not a great thing to experience because it's like you think it's your stuff, but it's not actually your stuff. But it feels so real, it becomes your stuff. So it's sort of an entanglement with another embodiment. It's kind of complicated to explain, I
I think I
suppose.
kind of understand it because last night I was doing a meditation with the quantum jumping, like not really a guided meditation. I was using binaural beats, and
Hmm.
I just made the intention that I want to meet the highest timeline where I was a very successful entrepreneur. And I envisioned this door, and I walk through this door, and I'm immediately on top of a mountain overlooking the ocean, and I'm walking through this house. Well, it's a very large house, but like that version of me didn't look like me, but it was like I could tell it was me. And it wasn't like the best version that I personally think because like the kids weren't there, my wife wasn't there. Like it was kind of like he was smoking a cigar, and I was like, "What are you doing smoking a cigar? You're definitely not spiritual." Like, not that people that not saying that people who smoke cigars are not spiritual, but like I don't smoke cigars, so like what are you doing, man? Like he just didn't care about his health. Like he was definitely out of shape and didn't really care about where the kids were or the wife or whatever. He was just like really focused in on, obviously making money. And so I was like, I guess I wasn't really specific in what I was trying to connect with. And then after speaking with him for a little bit, it seemed like the advice that I was getting was definitely not resonant with who I am right now. And
Mm,
I was like, I gotta go. Like I'm sorry, bro, but I can't continue this conversation with you because what I'm hearing isn't what I feel is true for myself or where I want to achieve. Like, yeah, this could probably be someone's dream life, but for me, it's not what I'm aspiring to become. So, peace out. Walked out, and then it happened a couple other times when I, was a little bit more specific in what I wanted to experience, but it wasn't exactly who I wanted to have a conversation with. It was like something was off each time. It wasn't, and each time it was different versions of the energy that I felt was me. Like it definitely didn't look like me, or I couldn't see exactly the face or the body, but I just got a little bit of insight on what that could look like, but it wasn't like me in this timeline. And I guess the biggest lesson from that is I'm still becoming that, what I'm asking to connect with.
mm.
So I'm just listening to the conversations that I'm having with these versions of myself. And like my father said, you can learn something from anyone, right? Like so I took that into those little conversations. Like, yeah, I may not agree with how this turned out, but let's see if there's any value here and just having a conversation that I can take back with me and implement into my daily life, the ashtray in this timeline, which I found was very valuable, which was a huge lesson for me when it comes to like using the modality of quantum jumping and using it in meditation to connect with something. Because you may ask for something as broad as the most successful entrepreneur I can possibly be. And then you get there and you're a turd. You know what I mean? Like you are not like, you're really not a good person. And so I think you have to be very specific in what you want to connect with, and then also keep in the back of your mind, maybe you're still becoming that. So that version of you is actually back in the moment, becoming that version of it, of what you are trying to become, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's actually quite, I don't know about you, but that's kind of confronting because you think, how did I be that? How am I that? How did that happen? And so that's sort of really a great example of staying in your timeline. Like if you're wanting to create something for yourself, it can sometimes be, it's always interesting. Like your dad said, there's always something there. I truly agree with that as well. But perhaps the best use of energy is to jump ahead in this version of you and see what you've created. But Spirit is actually saying, and they're reminding me what they have said to me many times, is that actually it's the next step. You just want clarity on the next step. They've got the big plan. They've got uh, an eye on all the different choice points you could make. If you can get really clear about the next step and then remove the resistance to taking it, or create enough support that you can take it with the resistance on board anyway. That's the other way to do it because there's always more than one way. Then you take that step and it's a good step. And that makes it a slightly bigger step maybe next time. So, I've met a version of myself too, and it was really quite freaky because this sort of version sort of said it was like next level, and it sort of said, you are, we love the way you're trying type of thing, but you're so undisciplined, and not just me, but humans are so undisciplined with their thinking. They don't know how to focus. So they get all these kinder creations, you know, and yeah, it was a real pep talk.
What
that
is the
one.
mind, right? Like you said that my mind is always going. Like what is the mind? Is
Mhm.
it how is it different than thoughts?
So when I say the mind is going, I suppose I'm talking about the part of you that is seeking and driving you, whereas the thoughts are just sort of more like musings and contemplations based off of that. Um, I suppose really part of the reason I studied hypnotherapy, so I was doing my energy work. And what I found was, yes, the energy is actually relatively easy to move and change. But clients were coming in saying, "Oh, I went to this healing and it worked for 3 months, and now I'm back at the same problem." And so there's more than just the energy. You've got to get the mind on board. So the mind is what we know, but also the pieces that we don't know, the subconscious. And that's really where a lot of the resistances are.
Mhm.
And then I also did some life coaching, because what do you do with that all information? You actually need to take some inspired action and do something differently. And then you've got a shift. Then you've got a permanent change. But just doing any one piece, I find, doesn't give you that miracle moment where it all comes together in alignment. And the power to that is because like attracts like. We all know that works. But if you're in alignment, if you're choosing and wanting, and your expression matches what your soul created you to do, you cannot fail, because the energy will come in and make whatever you need happen. It has to support that. So I think my big thing is, the secret to success is actually alignment.
Alignment. What is like the highest, I guess, possible timeline for you, right? Like how what have you envisioned for yourself in this reality to become?
I actually would see that as a limitation. So I don't have an endpoint. I have a constant evolution process, and that's my arrangement with spirit. So if I had envisaged something, um, it would change anyway, because you keep, people like us, people that are listening, we're committed to that growth and that expansion and that change. That's just what we do. We can't not do that. So if you envisage a certain state, you can only do that off your frame of reference, which is less,
Well, I love that, right?
because you wanting to go more.
Sure. I love that because like how much of what we consume on a daily basis through apps or through television or news is like influencing our goals and desires, right? So how do you know when you're tapping into the soul's desire or the soul's goals for you in this lifetime? Like how do you differentiate? I can't even say it now. How do
Yeah,
you how do you discern
yeah.
between what you've been programmed to believe and the actual soul's goal for this life?
It feels really different. You feel it. You feel it and you know it. And I suppose that's why, I called myself a pathway to knowing, because we're all on that journey to knowing with certainty, what that next step is, how to do that. So when you're connected with soul, it's very certain. When you're running programs, you'll find your energy will drop. You'll find there's a resistance, there's a haziness, a fuzziness to it. And then you just learn to discern the different sensations, but you feel it really clearly. And once you feel it, you remember it. And then you always know when you're not. Then there's nowhere to hide, because you actually always know when you're not.
I feel like this path is just this evolution of becoming, becoming more like to your point of I don't put a limit on it. I feel like when I say affirmation sometimes because of the human part of myself that needs
Mm,
goals, like I am capping that a little bit. But I love your
mm,
take on it where you don't try to have limits or these I guess constricting the potential of what you can be. You allow it to kind of become, which I totally get and resonate with. Um, do you find that a lot of people come to you that with these, I mean, are they the same goals? Are you seeing a correlation between um, individuals focusing in on the wrong things? And if so, like what should we be focusing in on?
So it's never like I would never either say right or wrong. You know, there are some things that are more useful than others. So when clients come to me, they're usually ready to change their reality in some way, shape, or form. They may not know exactly what that is, but they know there's something. They either feel that they've missed it or it's something they can't quite hold an awareness of yet. So that's where the seer part comes in. And so I go find that for them and I bring the awareness to them. And then with the awareness, they decide what to do differently. And I support them around that. I work the energy around that. So, yes, probably everyone that comes to me is in some state of that's not ideal. Or, the other thing that I am noticing too, though, is because, you know, my clients are two things. They're all light beings, star beings, very aware they're in a human experience, and they're open to and committed to that search, that seeking. So, stuff comes up in that process. Sometimes, though, these clients are at a place where they've created a really good, successful life and they have the capacity to go get anything they want, but they still don't have what they need.
Hmm.
There's still something there. And so that's when you really want to get back to what your soul was wanting you to do in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Mm.
So you can see things individually or for the individual. Can you see things for the collective?
Well, the collective talks, or spirit talks about the collective. If you're talking about the human collective, the
Sure.
the
Society.
stuff that we're all tied into, yeah. Um, yes. Short answer, yes, possible.
Yes, period.
Yeah. Yes, I can. What do you want to
Where
know?
where are we headed as society? Have you seen like future potentials for that?
I think we're at an incredibly dynamic and exciting time. And yes, I know it's a little bit messy, but most transformations and processes like that are. I personally have huge faith in the beings that are here in their human experience and their commitment to uplift and expand and help and evolve. I feel the energy at the moment, and I'm seeing this in the last couple of months with clients. There is a capacity in the energy that is so accelerated that, what might have been sort of a year worth of study and toil, you can sort of really condense and take a month or a few weeks to do. So we are all expanding and we're expanding into what I describe as um, the exact same frequency as the energy of this dimension. So the thing that I believe that is so special about Earth 3D is that there is a specific frequency here, which I call creation energy, and it's here for us to create with. So we get to be these powerful creators in the image, if you like, of the great creator and play with that energy. We've been trying to do it by going and, manifesting something which is outside of us. But what I'm seeing is when you reach a frequency or a vibration, whatever the right word is, when you reach a calibration, and I have a scale that I use personally with clients to see where they're at on that. My aim is to get everybody off that scale into that frequency because then you are the energy.
Hmm.
It is not outside of you. You reach for nothing. You simply intend and the energy responds. You're the director of the energy. It's a really difficult thing to describe, but in the last couple of weeks, I've had 3 clients hit that mark, and it's just been phenomenal to see that, to witness that. Such a
Really?
privilege.
What
Yeah,
can they do when they hit that mark?
they are free. They are liberated. It's easy. They don't struggle. It's just a whole different state of being. So what they are doing though is actually detaching from that collective consciousness that is pretty muddied, polluted, recycled, haphazard energy. When I talk collectives, I really speak of the spiritual collectives and the hierarchies in spirit. So if you tap into those collectives, um, it's almost like you've still got a body, you've still got an edge, but the energy is exactly the same outside of you as inside of you.
Hmm.
So it's like flow and synchronicity, next level, next level.
What's a synchronicity, right? Like, what do you see in your reality that you would term a synchronicity?
Um, it's those lucky coincidences. It's like, oh gee, that worked out well, or oh, that's perfect, or oh, I was just thinking about there it is. It's sort of like, what do I do with that knowing things that people don't know, and the next day there's the ad,
Hmm.
you know, and it's easiness.
Hmm.
And with that, the more you're in it, the more you understand that there's nothing to be afraid of because you're the creator and the energy is being directed by you. It is the coolest space to frequent. That's all I can say.
I feel like, to your point of different levels of consciousness, like there is a Christ consciousness that the individual, whatever you want to name him, reached 2000
Mm,
years ago and became that. Have you ever tapped into that for yourself?
yeah.
What did that feel like?
I don't know if let me try and find some words. Goodness, light, love, um, the best of everything.
Can you embody that? Can you bring that back down to this body?
Well, that's a work in progress, you know. Some days on a good day, yeah, yeah, moments, maybe moments. I am much better, honestly, Trey, at doing that for someone else or taking someone else there than I am at doing it for myself.
Why is that?
I feel that I've spent so much time perfecting this way, giving, and my path is a path of service. And I just trust spirit to take care of business with me, so I don't do a lot consciously, but those energies, those opportunities, they step forward to me as and when. So I don't necessarily consciously do it for myself. I never really ask spirit for anything for myself. It's just an agreement. It's just an understanding, and it's a trust and a faith that I'm looked after.
So if
And
you
yes, I've
did
tested that thoroughly.
hypothetically, if you
Sorry,
hypothetically wanted to ask for something, how would you go about doing that?
I would just do it with intention. Like I would just, I suppose part of the part of my connection with spirit and why I say I'm a conscious conversational channel is that I go into spirit and out of spirit. Like I've been, they made me do it over and over and over and over. And they said they to repeat it and do it until it was as natural as breathing. So now it's a very instant process. So if I'm thinking I want to feel that Christ energy, then it's, like it's almost starting to I can feel the tinges of that now, you know. It's that quick. But
So like if you have, let's say you're consciously manifesting, right, for yourself, and
mm,
you need to bring in someone or a person or a teammate or whomever to help you bring forth this manifestation, how do you make that or create that intention? Like, I feel like there's so many teachings out there that say, oh,
mm.
you have to say these words, you have to do this, you have to do these protocols. Like, how do you teach your clients to create that intention and then connect with spirit to manifest that individual or teammate or goal for yourself to kind of get you to the next level?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I always think that's a spirit-led thing. That's a spirit-led process. And so I initially would sort of like take my client with with me to take them there. And then they feel it. You're teaching, you're passing the energy, you're showing them the checkpoints along the way, and then they start to do it for themselves. But I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. It's only what works for each of us. But for me, I don't say special words. I just think it. Uh, and because I connect so quickly in and out of spirit all the time, it's virtually instant, and I'll get an answer back. I don't really manifest. It's like spirit created the business
Mm.
for me, and spirit, I go against all the rules. Marketing people tear their hair out. You don't do it like that. But it's a partnership.
So you have total faith that, and this is going to sound so weird coming out of my mouth because I'm just like, you have total faith that spirit will take care of everything that you need to have taken care of in order for you to succeed or be that version of yourself that you're pursuing, if that makes sense.
Short answer would be yes, I do. Because it's been proven to me over and over that I always have what I need. It may not always be what I want or how I thought it would be, but I always have what I need. So I do feel supported. I think that helps me, um, not get distressed about things in life as well, to the same extent of, if you don't have that connection and that support. And I suppose I don't follow it blindly. Like this is a process that has evolved for me across my life, and I I didn't really I didn't really require proof, but I needed the evidence, or I needed the experience. But once I have the experience, I'm really conscious about walking my talk and really stepping into faith.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do feel that I am supported and I have everything I need because that's how it's worked out.
Beautiful answer. I love it. So when you have multiple decisions to make, different choices for yourself that lead you towards your goal, like which one, and you can't have them all, but you can choose from one. Let's say you have three decisions to make or three choices, and they're all in alignment with your what you're trying to achieve for yourself, but you can't do them all at once. How do you discern which one to choose from, right? Like, or how do you make the best choice for yourself in that moment?
I usually cheat a bit.
Because there's always fear, right? Because you have three choices to make,
Yeah,
and it's like I can do that, and it's going to take me down that path, or I can do this, but but you can't do them all for whatever reason. You can only make one
yeah.
decision. How do you, I guess, make the best decision that is aligned with where you're trying to go? Because there is that fear of like, oh man, totally screwed up on that one. But there, I mean, of course, there would be a lesson behind that, but for someone who is so integrated with spirit, which I'm assuming is your cheat code, how do you how do you teach people to, I guess, for themselves, discern what is the best choice in the moment?
So, and when I say cheat, this is what I mean. I look down each of the pathways, you know, and usually I find you can get it down to one of two. Then it's really easy to look down both those pathways and feel the energy and which feels best. I do talk to spirit about where those pathways may go. But at the end of the day, I always come back to, you know, what's my alignment and which takes me further or closest to that and which doesn't. And there is always one that um, sort of shows. Sometimes you have to sit with it for a while, sometimes it doesn't come instantly. But, you're right, there are no wrong choices. There are easier, more streamlined ways to get to the same destination, and I think sometimes we think, oh, if I'd chosen to go down this path, then all those things wouldn't have happened. You don't actually know that. That's a really big assumption, you know.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's when, you can't let go of that relationship sometimes for some clients, because they really believe that was the only person for them and da 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 da. And without that, they can't have this. Well, that's all the belief and the mindset stuff restricting you. So you've got to be really conscious that when you look at those pathways, you're looking at them from neutral. And so that's what I do with my clients. We take out all the noise, we take out all the chatter, we invite spirit in. And so spirit to me is unembodied consciousness, and I just see that as a wall of light. So sometimes I will ask to connect with soul, sometimes I will just be hearing what the one voice that I asked to hear. Sometimes it can be, someone's past loved one that will step forward and give a message. Sometimes it would be someone from the angelic realm. Sometimes it would be, a different light being, or sometimes it's a future version of yourself. So when I say spirit, it's sort of like all of
It's
those
everything.
things.
Yeah, it's all that.
Yeah.
So you said earlier about having this energetic or I guess energetic ID of the individual. So there's an energetic ID of Trey. Can you follow that down into the future or into the past and see where someone may be and or help guide them to get to, the next step, whether, they currently are struggling and trying to figure out what the next step is, but can you get on that energetic ID, go to the future and see, oh, you just have to do this.
Yes. But I mean, there's only a small percentage of people that can take an answer like that and run with it. Like that might work for you. Um, but a lot of us need a little more crafting and a little more help with sort of turning around and getting it. So it's not quite that punchy. But I might come back to say to that client, this is the potential. This is what's in the way of that. Here's what we can do.
Hmm.
So that's me doing the seeing, but it's also spirit coming in and working the energy and also, giving us the hot tips and the right questions to search to
The
get the right
hot
answers
tips.
from.
I love that. Hot tip of the day.
Hot tip. Yeah.
Get a hold of Michelle if you want a hot tip because she will help you see the next step if you're in that incubator of life now, just getting hammered with, I don't know, if you're in that fog, if you're in that storm, she is the lighthouse on the beach, big bright light. Um, I'm so curious too. Have you ever experienced like light beings, angels in the reality? Have you seen them in this reality? Like
Sure.
how I see you right now, like you've seen them.
Yeah.
What did they look like?
Well, they often look like, we see in illustrations. Sometimes they're not quite as solid. So like you'd see them, but there's sort of a little bit of transparency to them.
Mhm.
Um, Often at night, just before I go to sleep, I'll be signing off with the team, and so I'm seeing all the different versions of who they are. Um,
Okay,
and
now I have to know who's the team. Who's on this
who's the
team?
team? My team.
Yeah.
My team. I work with three gatekeepers, and they are experts at synergizing energy, and that's why, with their help, I can go to a lot of different dimensional spaces and places, um, or access them uh, with relative ease.
Gatekeepers to where they what gate are they standing in front of? Like
My gate, the
your
golden
gate,
gate,
the Golden Gates.
the golden gate that takes you out there, like not the departure gate. No, that's a different gate. Um, that really
Wow.
is a different gate. Um,
Really?
yes.
Hit on that a little bit.
So I do. I call it the departure gate, and usually, so if we look at our departure gates. There's nothing. No one's there. Fortunately, lights are off. Nothing to see. You're working with a client that's ill, very ill, or someone that's getting close to passing. So I do two things. I read the energy and how it's diminishing and how it's leaving the body and going to spirit. And then at the same time, I'm seeing um, the departure gate, which, lights come on, the angels, the beings come in, they prepare the exit ramp, if you like. And I sort of describe it as a gate at an airport, departure gate at an airport. It's sort of like that, it's like a tunnel. And when it's all prepared, what I have seen, which I think is really beautiful, is they all sit in stillness and sort of beautiful prayer, this beautiful state of prayer and love. And they wait. They wait for the person to pick their last moment.
Hmm. Now, are they really these beings, or is it just consciousness being being those beings to help us transition?
They appear to me to be separate beings, and probably the light that is in the tunnel that they are creating is probably something similar to how I see with spirit. It's the energy of it. I've seen loved ones coming to meet people, you know, hop out of that light, and um, you know, uh, I'm just seeing reminded of an old couple. They've been devoted to each other, and it was the husband coming back to get the wife, and
Hmm.
it was really beautiful. So I've seen pets come back. Just depends on the person, but the supposed, people say the birth angel, but that being that really is sees you in and sees you out there at the front of the tunnel as well. Um, that's a whole different subject, I guess.
There's no, is there a Grim Reaper? Yeah, I guess for some people there might.
Well, there might be. I probably wouldn't hang with one if there was. It's probably not my vibe, but so I wouldn't know that being very well. Is there? Probably yes, actually, a
Sure,
version of that.
sure. Oh, I could talk to you all day. There's so many questions that pop up in my mind when I talk to you. So with that light and dark,
Mhm.
is there truly like, are we the light? Like we say that we are the light, we are this. Like, are we truly the light, or is it like we're both? You know what I mean? Like, are we both light and dark? And it's necessary to have the polarity in order to have growth. Because, people are like, I am of the light, I am a light warrior. And then I'm just assuming there's probably on the opposite end of that spectrum, there's same versions of people that are in the dark and may possibly be warriors of the dark. I don't know, but I feel like there is, when I step back and take an expanded look at society and the news and things that are happening, I feel like there is some type of contrast to the light going on 24/7. So
Mhm.
is there really, I mean, are we light warriors? Are we just a combination of both? Like, what is our true nature really?
I think our true nature for us is light. We're of the light. But our experience down here in this dimension, which is about, choice, consequence, good, bad, the polarities. Um, so that's a thing that's specific to this dimension and this experience. So no matter how light we are, when we come in for this, we open ourselves up to the equal and opposite because that's part of being down here.
Hmm. Oh,
So I think we're a mix. But Spirit also had a conversation with me recently about, the ancients and the 12 original lines of light, as they call it, that sort of uh, founded the embodiments on the dimension. And what they were saying was, there's currently, and I'm not sure if you're asking this, but I'm getting it anyway, but there's currently still three lines of light. And because of the dimension and the polarities, there's obviously three lines that aren't, which leaves us six lines of a mix of the light and the not light.
so the 12
So,
lines of light that came down, they were
sorry.
you said the 12 lines of light that came down originally, are they the creators of this dimension?
I don't think they're the creators of this dimension. I think they came into this dimension with a assignment to create and develop what was here.
And so now there's six lines of light and they're mixed. They're split in half, three light, three dark. So there's a mixture of the
And then
six. What
there's
happened to the other six?
three are light, three are dark, and then there's the six in the middle that are a mix um, of both light and dark. Um, yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Just a mix. So the lines of light that are the pure lines of light, if you like, still hold that original form that I talked about. So the capacity for them to be 100% light on the planet is far greater than those that are in the mixed sort of internal mix between light and dark, and obviously completely different to the ones that aren't in that. So I suppose why Spirit's saying this is that if anyone is listening that feels, senses, or simply knows or resonates with that, I might be one of those three lines of light, I feel it, then to trust that and to really hold that light and know what you're here to do with that light. That's the most important thing. You
Hmm.
know, hold it, protect it, but use it and use it wisely.
I love that. Have you ever encountered anyone that was like a pure light that wasn't like an ascended master here on this realm, like mixed in with everybody else in the population, like kind of living their lives and helping people, who are not conscious of them and who they are, like move through their timelines and their lives and helping, I guess, spread a greater message of what we can possibly become.
I feel that I have noticed, we might say masters, but beings that are light, they would usually come in temporarily. Um, because I think it's really hard, even if you're from one of those lines of light, you're still human, and it's very hard to hold 100% light and be human in a body with life happening. But it's knowing you've got that heritage, and it's knowing you've got that capacity, and it's knowing that you've got that pure sort of access to the light to share. That's sort of important. So for us as people, not so much, but I have seen beings come in. I've noticed, you know, different things um, that are 100% light, but they walk quietly amongst us, doing what they came to do and leaving.
So who was the last master that you saw?
The last master that I saw was actually someone that identified themselves as Master Chow. But the story I'd like to tell is the last angel that I saw. And it was at the supermarket where all good things happen.
Sure.
Um, but there'd been an accident. I wasn't involved in it, but someone had collapsed. And straight away, I saw this person that I clocked their energy signature as being really different. And they came in and they said something to the person that was injured and just stayed with them and absolutely calmed them. And then they said, "You'll be okay," and left and sort of went round the corner, and that was it. They were gone.
What does their energy signature look like?
It's just different. So it's like you might hear a particular tone on, sound, and then someone comes in and it's a different sound. You still recognize the sound, but you know it's a different sound. So the angelic energy is very light, and it's very caring, loving. You
Hmm.
know, it's the warm fuzzies. Um, the Some of the galactic beings are quite. I find this is again my interpretation, but I find them quite sort of impersonal. It's like our humans, they're just really big picture beings. So some of it might be attitude, some of it might be just perspective. But yeah, the angelic is very nurturing and caring, and you feel very safe in the angelic energies. So I find that they are often most around in trauma crisis. So
Hmm.
like, I don't really watch the news, but every now and then I'll see a photo or something, and every now and then you'll see a being in there helping.
Oh, wow. I love that. I feel like you're a being here helping us right now, just kind of move past all our stuff and help us get to that next step. Michelle, how can people connect with you? How can they find you? And maybe have a session or something.
Sure. So it's a pathway to knowing.com, or they can just reach out and contact me at Michelle at a pathway to knowing.
I love it. Michelle, this has been Absolutely amazing. Is there anything on your heart that you want to share or feel that spirit wants to say to share with the audience today?
Yeah. Okay. So Spirit really wants to say thank you. Thank you for the platform you have created, for the voices that are heard because of you, and to your listeners to take heart, to be strong, to believe in yourself and have faith, and know that it is what it is, but you're being looked after, and whatever that looks like. You know, I think we all sometimes feel alone or like we're doing it alone. And the biggest thing that Spirit would communicate tonight is that you're not, you never are, you never are. So sometimes you just have to see past your pain or your trouble or your fear, and the answer, the support, the breakthrough is just on the other side of that. So keep going.
I feel like you're talking to me right now.
Oh, no, not really. Well, there you go. For all
Thank
of us,
you.
really.
It's for everyone. Michelle, thank you so much. This has been beautiful. You're a beautiful energy, beautiful person, and I just can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really loved it. It's been a pleasure.